Good evening. Can you all hear me okay? Could somebody give me a wee one if you can hear me okay? Well, good evening. What I would like to do tonight is if any of you want to come up and chat, feel free. I've put the link into the chat there. Click it, come in, turn your camera on or off. I don't care. Come up and ask me any question you want or make any points you want. I want a wee bit of participation tonight. I've also put it in the YouTube description. So if any of you have access to that, just click the button. So what's happened today? Well, we done one of these last night. My idea is to do one of these every Tuesday and Thursday for the next couple of weeks, certainly into the run up to the election, and we go after that. But I had to change the Tuesday to Thursday this week, the Tuesday to Wednesday, because I had to pick up my stepson from a football trip flying back into Edinburgh, so wasn't possible Tuesday. And hopefully maybe one out of the 2 days we'll have a guest on, like Kev came on yesterday, try and get like Sabazzo and that on. But what I want is I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys to come in to the chat and just tell us your points of view, give us your questions. So try to think what's happened since yesterday. Well, something mad happened actually. Something really, really bonkers. Share it with you. Let me just know what I'm trying to make. Surreal happened about 2-3 hours ago. And as you know, I'm up for election on the 7th of May. If you're in Glasgow or know anybody in Glasgow, then it is. Oh, well, that's weird. Going on to my profile on Twitter. It's there now. Just now. Should have this lined up for you coming on, I suppose, but it's me, nobody professional. These that's 9 years ago, maybe we passed it. Look at, I'm going to throw it up on the screen in a minute, is Colin Canny from SE, absolute nailer of interview. Now, this is bonkers, right? Because this thing I want to show you. I'll get this Swinny thing up in a minute, but I just want to show this, which is first. Share screen. Twitter. Right. Right, so that's my Twitter, right? Now, see there, it says sensitive, right? I shared a photograph, and this photograph is. Where the hell's it gone? I'm not doing well tonight at all, am I? No, there we go. Show. Right. So this photograph is a piece of history because somebody sent in my first ever vote because the postal votes arrived today. And there you go. How mental is that? Right? So you can see it's the peach coloured one, which is the second ballot in Glasgow, and my name's second for the bottom. So you have all the parties listed first, and then you have the two independent candidates sitting there. So you tick that, and it was pretty bizarre seeing that. You know, it's actually, it's real now. It's happening. And hey, a couple of my pals said, why does it say in the woman underneath that she's independent and it doesn't say anything for you? And I says, well, that's because you had the choice of description. You either had no description or independent. And I've just left it. And then the council phoned me later on that night and went, Craig, we're just looking through your paperwork. And you've no ticked you want the independent thing. And I said, I don't want that because some people think you might be independence, not independent. So we done that, and it was pretty mental. Why am I not on the screen? Because I've got the wrong button. Really surreal. Absolutely bonkers to think somebody's asked for a postal vote, got it in probably at some point today, and ticked my name. And it really was, it was quite a strange moment in the life of Craig Houston, and a life that's had lots of bizarre moments. So if you don't want to come up and ask a question, put 2Qs into the comments and I'll see your question and I'll answer anything you want. However, well, that's no good. James, you can't vote for me. I'm just in constituency. I'm standing in the Glasgow region, James. Anybody in Glasgow can vote for me. But if you can't vote for me, you need to adopt a Ouija, right? That's the next thing. And we'll get, you find a Ouija online and you say, you vote for Big Craig for me. That'll do, right? That'll do. See, you, Proverbs, you need to stop that. Right? Not having this Celtic chat. We're having 3 weeks while the campaign's on. No fatba, right? And Tech, forgot the QQ. You're going to be standing outside the voting booth on the day, Craig. Well, I don't know, Tech, because it's actually, there's rules that you can't actually do any campaigning at all on the day of the election. So you can kind of campaign up to the 6th, and then between the polls opening and 10 o'clock at night, you can't campaign. So I don't know. I maybe need to try and get people to go and do that for me, which we kind of get like Kevin, all that, you know. Let's see anything else. Can't vote for me. Done that one. I take it that's sorted. The sound, I'm seeing the sound bar here, so it should be all right. Right, I want to show you something else, right, which is pretty potty today. And it's a interview by Colin Mackay on STV. And I just thought this was phenomenal. I thought it was one of the best interviews I've seen with anybody, with the First Minister. So, and having a mare here. Over here, add to stage, bit of that, and we'll get that playing in just a jiffy.
John Swinney, the focus of your manifesto was that
people are facing really tough times in terms of all of their costs, particularly energy bills and food bills. Make an intervention that will help to protect people who just quite literally can't afford their shopping. I've got public powers. People are trying to get nutritious food at an affordable level. So we'll put in place, using over a limited range of prices, it will enable people to get a nutritious shopping basket for an affordable price from the supermarket, and we'll use our public health powers to protect people in these difficult times.
People are struggling now. How quickly could you deliver it?
We obviously would have to legislate for that, so it's not something that can be done overnight, but we'll do it as quickly as we can by consulting with supermarkets.
By the time you legislate the current cost of living crisis caused by the war in the Middle East might be over.
Well, I think we're facing an inflationary problem for some to come, and in costs for individuals. So I want to make sure we take all the steps that we possibly can do as quickly as we can. And obviously, there's other provisions in the manifesto about expanding early learning and childcare. So that children...
let's focus on the price cap for food at the moment. Would it cost the Scottish Government funds?
No, it wouldn't. It's something that would obviously...
So you'd be expecting the supermarkets to absorb this?
Yes, I would be, because supermarkets are performing well financially, and I want to make sure we put in place some...
So I stopped that a minute there, because this was something that we weren't sure of at the time, because he didn't actually tell us when he was up on stage how he was going to carry this out. And there's two ways of doing this. you can either expect the supermarkets to do it, which is potty, or you can get the government to pay for it. And I thought there's no way you can tell anybody that they can only, charge a maximum price for their goods, because you're not in control of all the costs that go into that. Things that go into making a retail price, like transportation, the raw goods themselves, the product, the heating and energy bills for the shop where you're selling it, the staff, the marketing, all this stuff. You can't control that. So I'm not really sure how anybody can say we're going to tell supermarkets how to price their goods. And I'm also not sure how you can enforce that. I mean, I can understand the minimum thing they done with the alcohol, where they said, per unit it must be X amount of pounds, whatever the X amount of pounds was. But to tell people the maximum that they can sell products for, what if they don't cover their costs? And I had a look at it today, and I was looking at like a loaf of bread. I was ordering some groceries myself today, and a loaf of bread you can get for 75p. So, if you're going to make this, and what they're going to do is they're going to have between 20 and 50 products in every supermarket that they'll list, like eggs, milk, bread, that sort of stuff, where they'll be telling folk that that's the maximum you can sell that for. Well, what happens if it's no cost effective and you can't make money selling it? Do the shops just no sell bread? And it's just bonkers, and you'll think, well, why would you do that? And what about see, a lot of supermarkets, to be fair, they've got their own range of stuff, right? And you can buy eggs, milk, all that reasonably cheap anyway. But what about things like Waitrose, right? Because it says supermarkets. So what have they to do? Go and actually buy a whole new range of stuff just for Scotland if they don't have their own budget line? It's just total bonkers, right? So it gets worse, this interview, and John Mackay really does them in. For about a minute into
protection at the margins for people who are really
and people in supermarkets aren't known for playing along with these things. Obviously, they might resist.
Well, if we put it into legislation and we're successful, that can deliver the type of practical support. It's an example of how I'm using all of the powers available.
But you don't even have the powers over this, because the UK government could stop it because of the Internal Market Act.
Well,
you warned of that in your own manifesto.
Well, I suggest you go and raise that with the United Kingdom government.
Right, see what he's doing here. Two things to point out here. The first thing is, I'm really, really bitter that Grangemouth shut, and I'm unhappy at both Holyrood and Westminster for that. And anybody defending the SNP say, but I mean, energy's not a devolved power. And you go, okay, so if energy's not a devolved power, how come you've managed to pawn all the offshore wind turbines? Because you've done that, right? So some things in energy are, and what I was saying was, go and find the loopholes. Go and stop giving us excuses not to do things. Give us reasons how you're going to do it, right? But what they've done here is, this isn't something that's a devolved power. So how they're framing it is, they're saying that Scottish people don't get enough nutrition in their diet. So it's a health problem. So he's circumventing it. And, I wish he would do this with more things, then stop bloody moaning that you've not got enough powers. But now what he's saying is, but Westminster could easily block this because it would contravene, a lot of big market legislation that they've got. He's like, well, let them. So what he's going to do is, they know this will not get through, right? And then it'll just be another, there's Westminster holding us back, right? It's just a game. And the other thing that Colin Mackay doesn't cover in this great interview, to be fair to him, is in the actual manifesto, it says that there will be like a consultation period before they even put this to the government, into Parliament. And that'll allow them a look at to see if it is possible. So in their own manifesto, they actually tell you this might not be possible, right? It's nuts. Anyway, we're about a third of the way through this. Stay tuned.
Because that would be quite a spectacle of a Labour government stopping an SNP government from trying to lower the food costs of individuals in Scotland who are struggling today. That would be the perfect illustration of how completely useless the Labour government is at Westminster.
How much would your bus fare cap cost?
It would cost about £210, and that would enable us to ensure that the pilot we've taken forward across the country would be able to, across the Highlands and Islands, would be able to be applied across all of Scotland.
Right, now I've already done a video on this last year. There's two things that we pay for just now for buses. One of them is we give bus companies money to upgrade their own fleet and change it to electric, right? The government gives them dough. And I think that's potty, because if you've got any business that has any sort of transport like that, let's say you're a haulage company and you've got 10 trucks, and you think, well, every year if we change 5, we'll be rotating our stock every 5 years, right? So you budget and plan for that. They've taken that right off the bus companies' responsibilities, because you can just get a grant and get a new electric bus, right? It's bonkers, right? And there's right weird things like there's bus companies who are getting the grants that don't have bus routes just now. How mad's that, eh? And between that and the free buses for the under 22s or 21s, whatever it is, that's already costing us. One of them cost about 300 million a year and the other one about 200 million a year. So we're already giving £500 million a year to bus companies as it is. And he's saying that this will be another 210 million quid. So we're now at 750 million. And it's the SNP we're talking about. So that 210 will no be 210 because they're not very good at adding things up. But we're now going to be spending about £750 million to give younglings are free travel. Everybody else subsidised, so it's £2. You go from Glasgow to Aberdeen, it'll be £2, right? And for bus companies to update their fleet to electric. That's serious dough. I don't even know. I wonder how much it would cost just to run a bus company with all the routes in Scotland and not ask anybody for any money. You might be able to do that for £750 million, right? It's just mental.
What that helps people do is to be able to afford bus services so they can gain access to employment, so they can get out into, but again, taking practical measures to support
people. You're proud of your record? All of it?
Yes.
All the record?
Yes.
So you're proud of the housing emergency, the drugs death crisis, the ferries debacle, hospitals, crowded prisons which you're having to let prisoners out for. You're proud of all of that?
Well, I'm proud of the record of an SNP government.
But that is the record of an SNP government.
Well, yes,
that's the record of the last 5 years.
And I'm proud of it, because in difficult circumstances, we've given the leadership to people in Scotland to face tough times. So in the course of the last few years, there's been a massive expansion of earning and childcare. There's a falling.
So what he's proud of, he's gave us leadership to get through some hard times. He created the hard times, you bun it, right? You're an absolute wreck. And by the way, this interview gets better, right? You think he's getting a hard time now off Colin Mackay? Wait to see what happens in the last 3 minutes.
We've seen an expansion in the number of young
proud
people.
Of that? Well, so, you're proud of a housing emergency? And are you proud of the ferries debacle?
Well, we've with the SNP put 9 new ferries into the ferry network, and we've purchased 11 more, some of which are going to be here over the summer.
And yet, during this campaign, you've had to apologise to people who rely on the ferries. You've had to apologise to victims of the Jordan London situation. You've had to apologise to hospitals in Glasgow, for example. There
are going to be difficulties in public policy and public life, but I'm proud of a government that's got unemployment flat as a pancake in Scotland, that's expanded early learning and childcare, that's got child poverty in Scotland today, that's delivering faster economic growth in the rest of the United Kingdom, that's delivering record literacy and numeracy.
You've apologised more than anyone else in this election. Anyone else in the election I can remember.
Absolutely constant and persistent interruption doesn't get any answers for your viewers. And the answer I'm giving you is there's lots of...
I'm asking you to apologise for some of these things, and have you? You have for some of them.
And I'm simply saying to you, there's lots of really good things happening in Scotland. And those good things that are happening in Scotland is the expansion of early learning and childcare, record levels of literacy and numeracy in our schools, falling waiting times in our hospitals, falling waiting lists in our hospitals, rising numbers. Well, wait a minute. Rising numbers of GPs, GP walk-in clinics all opening.
Absolutely.
That's all what my government is delivering, Colin, and I'm very proud of it.
The NHS is absolutely central to your manifesto. You say you're focused on improving the NHS. But let's look at the point of most urgent need: accident and emergency. 95% in 4 hours is your target. Do you know what it was last week?
It was about 61% last week.
Just under 61%. Do you remember when you last hit the 95% target?
Well, that's because of the...
Because it was beyond the last Parliament.
Yeah, but that's because of the pressures in the National Health Service, which I am addressing.
This is because of the pressures in the National Health Service that I'm addressing. Remember, after lockdown and stuff, they've just used that for a couple of years, right? Well, that was like 5 years ago now. They've been in power for 19 years. But we're going to address that. This the target that they set, by the way. They set the 95% an A&E target for, I think it's under 4 hours. 4 hours. You can't achieve that 95%. You're currently tracking about 60%. And what he does next is he tries to get them to agree to a target, and doesn't happen.
We've put in
Well,
place,
you're
for
not
example,
addressing them in accident emergency because those figures aren't improving.
Well, let's just see. So Scotland's a country where you've got the lowest risk of dying of cancer in history today.
But I'm asking you about accident emergency.
And I put
and
this
the
all.
biggest hospitals in the country are less than 50%.
Listen, Colin, this interview will enlighten your voters if you keep on interviewing.
It would help if you answered that question.
Well,
when will you hit that 95% target?
We will get there as we take forward improvements in the National Health Service.
Do you think that could
well,
be?
let's take.
You didn't hit it in the last Parliament. Will you hit it in the next Parliament?
Let's take another example, Colin. Right,
well,
so I came into office. I'm going to give you an example approach. So I came to office and I said I would reduce long waits in our hospitals. That's exactly what we've done. 9 months in a row, huge falls in
but long
outpatient.
Waits and accident emergency continue. When will you hit the 95% target?
And I'm simply saying to you, people in Scotland should have confidence. They've got a First Minister that said he came in and said, I'll reduce long waits. And we're
reduce the waiting times and accident emergency.
As I possibly can do because I'm focused on the National Health Service, and what I'm determined that we deliver the improvements in the National Health Service, and I've got the demonstrable evidence of doing it with outpatient waiting times falling, inpatient waiting times falling, long waits falling, GP numbers rising, all what's going on. And we also said that we would introduce frailty units in our A&E to protect older members of the population. We've done exactly that, and that's helping.
What about making progress to close the financial black hole that your government and that the Auditor General says you're facing, up to £5 billion in the next Parliament?
Well, I have news for you, Colin. Every single year of the SNP government, we've lived within our budget. And during the course of all that, Colin, I was the Finance Minister for 10 years that balanced those budgets, got money on delivered for the
legally obliged to do.
But it doesn't happen by magic.
I'm not saying
it doesn't come by magic. You've got to act. You've got to take the right decisions.
How will you do it next year? Will you have to make cuts?
No, we'll set a budget for this year. Budget will be. You see the budget. It's open, transparent.
It's a lot of spending commitments. Are you going to have to make cuts in the next Parliament hope to meet that, to close that £5 billion black hole?
Well, what I set out last summer was the public service reform strategy, which will change the number, reduce the number of public bodies we've got, that will change the way we deliver services, get more focus on early intervention and prevention to make sure that people in Scotland are able to get access to public services provided. And that government, the wise decisions for the long term that help us to balance the books.
You have to make cuts to fill that black hole.
We'll undertake reform. We'll do changes. We'll change the way in which. Well, I was explicit in my comments earlier on today that there'll be a reduction in the levels of public sector employment. But frontline staff, because they're the ones who deliver our public services, that'll be the focus of my action.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you. News.
There you go. I thought that was an absolute car crash, if I'm honest, and I thought fair play to Colin Mackay. He didn't get peace. And there's a question, well, it's not a question, it's a statement there. Look at the profits these supermarkets have, and you're telling me they can't afford it. Well, I don't know. And I'll tell you why nobody can answer that. He's not told us that this 70 loaf of bread, how much it's going to be as a maximum selling price, right? But what I will tell you is, I spoke to someone who works at director level today in the industry. And I asked him a straight question. I said, look, roughly, these things that you've got, see your basic brands and stuff, what's that margin they have in them? Because even if they said, right, you've got to bring down to break even, the supermarket work, it's worth it, because while you're in, you might buy a frozen pizza, right? So it's almost a loss leader. But what they told me was they're already at the bone. They don't have much margin in them at all, right? So they cut them because and then they all do this price match with Aldi and all that. So listen, if you buy a tin of margarine, then they probably make far lower than they will their own brand cheap stuff. But until he comes out and tells them what prices have to put their stuff at, why would they sell them at a loss? Why would they not tie this up for years in legal argument? Because that'll happen. And I would kind of do that. I was in the motor trade for a long time. If the government suddenly came and went, we want everybody to buy a car, every car maximum price 10 grand, you'd be like, shut up, right? Just shut up. It's not happening, right? So that's the kind of nonsense we're up against. It's just bonkers. Do you know what I mean? And it's food. We don't even know. They gave them some rough ideas on what we were going to have on those. They've said it'll be up to 50. Well, that could be 20, right? So we don't know. And every supermarket will have a list of lines that they've got to have, and everything in that's got to have a maximum price. Now, there are countries in the world done this before. Every one of them communist, and it never worked in any of them, because the knock-on effect was, folk going, oh, me having a field full of barley or corn or whatever, because supermarkets are notorious as well for any farmers you ever speak to them, whereas they take the price of buy for, and you say yes or no. Don't find well that the guy up the road will say yes. So, what they're going to do, just squeeze the bakers, squeeze the farms the buy their eggs. That's all the supermarkets could do. And then we'll just no bother having farms, no bother having people making food if they can't get a turn out of it and keep keep them in place. And I see somebody's put their Tesco's operating profits rising to 3,000 million. Aye, right. And do you think they'll go, we'll just sell stuff at a loss, right? Now, they might be able to, but it's doing their choice. It's a free market we live in. But if they have to do it and they want to do it, all they'll do is tell the people they're buying it off, we're paying that for it. And they either say yes or no. And at the end of the day, how much can you take off? This is going to make a big, massive difference in the cost of living, right? Anybody that wants to help reduce the cost of living, it's worth listening to, right? Because it's not a bad thing. But you've got to think, what is the practical cost to the country, and B, what savings will we have to your pocket? Because if they say the maximum price you can sell a loaf of your basic bread, by the way, you'll still be able to sell further up the supermarket your posh bread, right? You want to buy dough and all that, that'll be up there at normal prices, right? So it's just this stuff here that'll be at your door. So another thing I've never thought of before, just make it shite. Go, right, we make a 70 pence loaf. Right, okay, well, just use a loaf that's shiter to make. Tastes rotten, but hey, they're a box ticked, right? Why not look at other stuff like rates and income tax? See, if you tax the people nothing, right, they would all have more money in their pocket. And guess what we'd do with it? We don't save money. Scottish people, I think, last time I spoke to a finance company, it's like something like 80-90% of people in Scotland don't have more than £1,000 sitting in a bank anywhere, right? So most people get it and they spend it. So if you give them another £200 a month because I'm not saying we should do this, but let's just say talk about tax, you'll spend it. So the revenue, the government, the country get the money anyway. There's tax, right? And if you tax it at source, you'll just get less to give out. And that's why you see these silly tax rates are less than the VAT rate. You're as well not having them. You're as well not having any tax if it's under 20% income tax. You're as well just letting that money run into the economy because you'll go and spend it and you're getting the VAT at 20%. So you're as well just, we've got these stupid laws. They're proper mental, right? And let's say we get the price of bread down by 5 pence. Do you know what I mean? And what? It's like, we're going to bring every kid out of child poverty, and they've never done it, but we'll give an extra £4 a fucking month or something stupid. Do you know what I mean? My connection's crap. Look, sorry, I've got a wee reader and it's saying it's all right, so I do apologise. Anyway, the buses, that's a favourite because I think that's kind of a decent way that you could probably launder money. Do you know what I mean? Just here you go. How can you give a bus company money that's not got a bus company that's not got any bus routes, so they can buy some Chinese electric bus? It's just bonkers. Other story of the day. Starmer, he's getting it stinking, right, and rightly so. Every party bar his own has demanded his resignation because he's now claiming that he didn't know. Well, he first told us that Mandelson had passed some security checks when he, gave him a job as the ambassador to America. Turns out he never got any. Now, apparently, Starmer knew about that. So if Starmer's lied to Parliament, then he should get his jotters. But again, it's United Kingdom we live in. So will it happen? I don't know. Right, I'm disappointed. We've been doing this now for half an hour, right? And nobody has came up to have a chat. So if you put your questions in just now, well, this is going to be a short live with a QQ, and if you're going to text it, and if you'd want to be brave and come up to the studio, you can have a camera or no camera, I don't care. I've just put the link in the comments, and you'll get that to you. So I'm trying to catch up. It's like saying there, we have a unique famine where supermarket shelves are full of food that nobody can afford. Aye, and it's no bread and milk, that people can't afford. We're seeing cheese, for example, with security tags on it. That just blows my mind, right? How can milk be reasonable price and cheese not? Last time I looked, it's kind of the same stuff that goes into both these things, right? It starts off with milk, right? And okay, there's a lot more processing in cheese to turn it from milk into cheese. I get that, and that's why it's more. But piece of cheese, it's just bonkers. Some stuff's just mad, but I don't understand the. I don't understand. Is that right? We are the people saying chocolate bars are in security boxes. I've not seen that. That's proper mental, isn't it? That can't be true. Somebody's put here, does anyone know when the protest is? There's one on Saturday in Dumfries. Kev was going down here. He was talking to me about it today. I don't know the time and stuff, but if you're on Twitter, have a look. I'll share it later. It's definitely, there's some details there. You look up Kevin the Ranter on Twitter. I'm sure Kev will have reposted it. Well, Bumpy, you actually just need to move then. Just move up to Glasgow, Airbnb for a bit. Or tell them you've just arrived, right? Tell them you're an asylum seeker. Turn up at one of these offices and go, here, I've just arrived here, I'm seeking asylum, I need a vote, right? Or get to jail, because if you're in for less than have you not seen that, Jenny, putting security tags on cheese? Almost every maybe it's because it's a Glasgow thing, right? But I'm sure we're not the only part of the country that does it. I get security tags on some cheese. And obviously, it's a lot of deer meats. It's a lot of the what's that? Yeah, true, Craig. So as butter, and I take it your fingers on the working sugar. Take it that means there's butter in some places that've got security tags on. Mental. I can't be at the protest. I'm going to need to be doing a bit of. I've not been able to get out the house for 2 days because of my back. So thankfully, I've got people out putting leaflets for me, but I need to get out there and start champing doors to make sure we get elected. So I know I'll not be doing, but I'm sure Kev will be loud enough for both of us. Oh, that's true as well. These cheeses are full of chemicals now. The poison is with it. I don't know what that is. BBC reported, but I've missed something. Oh, here's a question. I don't know. Is the honest answer? Somebody's asking there, how's Inverness 5 months on since your barracks video? I'm coming up with my young child from England in May, and we have a gig. Oh, a gig in Inverness? What, are you going to watch a gig or do you play in a gig? Doesn't look far from the barracks. Well, there's a hotel right behind the barracks. Is it Holiday Inn? No, it's a travel lodge or one of them Premier Inns. And when you pass the main road and you see the hotel on your left, you can't see it, but up the hill and just behind it, that's where the barracks are. So hopefully you're not staying there. But I'm actually need to check if they're even in yet, because they delayed the arrival of them, and I've not heard any updates since then. So I don't know is the honest answer. Snack bar, Kev's. I don't know where Kev is. I think he's away taking videos somewhere. Too late, but listen, that's went up, right? I was in the motor a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and Alex phoned me, and he said, I can't remember where he was. I think it was through the East Coast. He's like, Craig, I've been in 4 petrol stations to try and get diesel, and none of them's get diesel. So he knows I've got a diesel car. He's like, you better fill up. So I was up the Great Western Road, and the queue, I was a quarter tank, I wasn't empty, but there was a queue into the big, what is it? I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Great Western Retail Park. There's a petrol station in there. It's Census, and it must be right cheap. It was queued out the door. Just queued out the door, and I went, oh no, I'll try and catch it later. Drove 2 mile up the road, nobody in there, so I knew they must be a wee bit dearer. But they were at £1.80 then, and I thought, well, that's a bit steep. That was only 2-3 weeks ago. And then I put more petrol in yesterday, and it was one Sainsbury's at what do you call that? Darnley, and it was about 190 something, £2. What's your thoughts putting migrants in homeless hotels? I'm shocked anybody has to ask me that. We don't need to have illegal migrants here. We could send them out to Ascension Islands. That would put them off and they would stop coming, right? And it's bad enough when they're putting them in hotels that are locked for themselves. But what we do in Glasgow, so the city council can actually gaslight us, they're putting them in smaller hotels, like B&B type ones, and they're putting like one homeless person in and the rest of them are asylum seekers. And then they say, well, that's not an asylum hotel. Right? It's crackers. And wee Paul at North and South, they're one of these groups that go around, try to protect people in the town centre. They were up at one a few weeks back, and there was a young girl, I think she's early 20s, with a baby under a year old outside in the step, and she was distraught. And they were like, "You all right, hun?" She's like, "No, I can't cope with this." So what is it? She went, "I'm homeless, me and Wayne, and I've put me in here, and I'm the only female in here. It's all asylum seekers, single fighting age men." And they put her in there. And they went, "No, I'm not having that." So they got her out of that. They got her into a homeless unit, and they were going to get her somewhere for the night because they were full. And what they done was they put them in the guest house next door. They put her in that one. Bonkers. But they got her out of there the next day, and they got her into a short-term lit flat, which is fantastic. So it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Does that mean train fares will go up? No idea. Paul Thorpe last night said he'd be happy to do a live view sometime. I got a couple of messages to say that as well, and I got Paul on WhatsApp earlier on the day, and we're going to get a catch up tomorrow. He's out with his missus all day today, I was saying, during the day. So we're going to get a wee chat tomorrow and sort that out. Somebody get their postal vote letter today. You're on the voting list, but details about you are sparse on the voting form. Sorry, it's just my name. See the form, I'll be the second from the bottom, and you could get, if you're a party, it's got your party name and the logo. If you're not a party, you go to the bottom, and there's 2 of us. There's me and a woman. She's at the bottom of the list, and they give you the choice, right, when you fill the form out, and it said description, independent or no description, and I ticked no description. Put my forms in. That night, folk for the council, my minister all phoned me. Craig, this forum, you've ticked that you don't want any description. I went, that's right. I went, well, normally people tick that they want independent to show that you're independent. I went, aye. But some people that look at that and can't read too well might think that means independence, right? And I'm certainly not an independence guy. So, see, rather than cause confusion, I'm going to just leave it blank. So it's just basically my name. Put an X next to it, I'll shoot you in, right? And thank you if you're voting for me. Heard John for Bring the Noise say Glasgow nothing happened. He was at M8 3 times. So I take it that's the fuel thing that we're getting on with doing. Craig, will you try and expose the clergy plan if you get in? Well, aye, what I understand it, aye. I'm no expert on it, but I understand it. And what I think the knack of this is when people go into like X spaces and that and they start talking about clergy plans and all that carry on, just write the read, right? But see if you take it bite-sized chunks. and you take one party like the ID or the 15 minutes or any of these things that make up this whole plan, you've got a better chance. So, yeah, but no, like, let's stop with clergy planning photography talking about that crank, right? So that I will, but I'll be doing it in my own fashion. So please don't expect me to become the podcaster that is that guy, right? Because that's not the way to get results in any of these things, right? It's to sell it to them when they don't know where it's coming from, and it sort of helps prevent the things you fear. All right? I'll give an example of that. Some parties are going to start doing a halal ban, try and put bills into Parliament, right? And I was like, don't, because all you'll get there is you'll get folk on, no, that's Islamophobic, that's bad, right? See, if you frame it as an animal welfare problem, can you imagine anybody saying, no, I don't want that. I don't want our animals killed in a humane manner. I would rather we were really, really nasty to them. Get the same result by no just going, here, what I want to stop. So just have faith in me there. Politicians won't save you. And other people have tried it a different way and it's not worked. So we're as well trying it a different way. Where are we? Craig, I play people of Glasgow vote for you. We need your voice in Parliament. Well, that's it. And listen, this is the other thing. See, if you're not from Glasgow or you know, and you're trying to impress some of your pals that are to vote for me, the thing you need to get across, this is very, very important. I remember back in the day when I was thinking about voting for, I can't remember the reason, there was some independent, right? And I thought, looked at it and I thought, guys get no chance because it was a general election and it was first past the post. And that's a problem you have with small parties and with independents. People think, well, they're never going to win. And that's true when it's a general election. But this is the key bit you need to know. And you need to tell people when you're trying to sell the idea of voting for me, right? You need to tell them that, see the bit that kicks in, that peach paper, the second ballot, there's 7 seats. So if you look at all the boxes, there's 7 seats going to the people. Now, you can get more than one seat if you get enough votes, right? But if I come fourth or fifth in that list and look at, there's some things that you're looking at and go, they'll not even get a vote, right? So you can ignore half of them because they're not going to get anywhere near it. And I only need to be fourth or fifth and I'll get a seat because there's a couple of bigger parties will probably get 2 on the list, right? So if I end up fourth or fifth, I should be all right. And it's well achievable because we're over 9 constituencies and it's only like 1,500 votes to 2,000 votes in each constituency when you put them all into the region, and that'll get me in. And that's the bit we need to tell people. People got to understand that this isn't a PR stunt, right? This isn't some crackpot thinking he's going to beat the system. This is not quite a crackpot that's understands the system and seen that this is a way of getting me in because don't need to be first, right? 100,000 votes. So we need people to understand that or they'll no bother. People don't want to waste their vote. So why would you vote for somebody if they never had a chance of winning? This is well achievable. And the only thing that will stop it happening is people not believing it can happen, right? Because I don't think there's many people in Glasgow would go, I don't fancy him as being a member of Parliament up there, you know, talking on our behalf. So we need to really infuse people that this can happen because there's 7 seats up for grabs. I only want 1, right? Lord Houston of Linwood giving his maiden speech in Holyrood. A cracker on it. Aye. Craig, my broadband's, I'm looking at the speed on it and I'm getting really good speeds, so it might be something else on my system. Let me just check the speed. There be speed test. It is a bit laggy even doing the speed test. Maybe I've got too much stuff opened. Oh, I have. Oh, that's terrible. Give me a wee second. Is my VPN on? More, because that happens quite a bit. So hopefully that's sorted that out. Okay, and thanks for pointing that out to me. Sugar. Make Glasgow smile again, big man. That's the time. My town is to benefit from the Pride in Place funding, okay, to help the high street. But we have too many kebab shops and hairdressers. What do you think the money was spent on? New pavements? Well, I thought this stuff was more for swing parks and public amenities rather than, like fixing it. I might be wrong, but that was the way I read it. That was what that money was going. You've done well, because I don't think there's many up here got that money. So beware. I don't know what that means. Be weather. Is it to beware? Right. Let me see if I missed anything else. Oh, here we go. Thomas Leonard Ross has said so many times. Oh, that must be a first part of this. I hope you can get put forward legal matters from organisations who are fighting for proven innocence in Scottish legal system. That way the police deal with cases is so bad. Now, this is another thing. See, if you just go, we want to fight people that are in jail and they shouldn't be in jail, right? People go, you're just wanting bad men to get, guilty people to get innocent. Well, that's not the case. I want a fair system. I want a fair trial system. So we put bad men away and innocent men don't go to jail, right? So if you talk about a fair system, nobody can throw that allegation at you, right? And it says here, the next bit is, Thomas Ross has said so many times, so if and when we get you in, will you be pushing hard for fairness and accountability into the law and sort the policy out? Right. Well, I've already spoke to Thomas about this. You might have noticed I've had him on the podcast a few times. I've known Tommy for about 12 years. So, yes, right? And what I'm asking is, people like Thomas, that's your specialist subject. Could you basically write the bill that you want me to present? I've spoke to people about social housing. I've spoke to people about the drug deaths and how we can make that better. And I'll get them to help me. I mean, I've got a great network now of people just through the 2 years of doing this, that there's no many top topics that can come up where I've not got somebody in that phone that I can go, that's the person for that. Like, I want to talk about that in a minute. Like today, when I remembered about the crazy stats for the census and the population, and I'm like, these figures don't add up. And I phoned somebody that I know that's into that stuff, and I heard them talking about it before. And I'm going to do a video about it tomorrow. But where I am with this is, I think I spoke about this last night. Right, about migration. And somebody came into the comments and said, I mean, you're all worried about the Muslims. There's only 2.2% of Scotland are Muslims. And I said, well, I wasn't talking about Muslims. I was talking about migrants. And I don't care the nationality or the religion of a migrant or the skin colour for that matter. I don't care. I don't like the fact that illegal migrants come into our country, and I think their legal migrants are too high as well. But while you're on the topic, what are you talking about? 2.2%, right? And it turns out that is the stat. The last census done in 2021, the population of Scotland, according to the census, is 2.2%. Okay? Now, I'm no bad at maths, right? So that means if I walk out that door now, well, that's not a door, that's my window. If I walk through that window now, or stood at that window just now, and I count the next 50 people that go by, that means I'll only see one Muslim. Because that's what 2.2% looks like. If I see 100 people, I'll see 2 and a bit, right? 2 to 3 people. And that's just not true. And I challenge anybody, bar like Outer Hebrides and some remote island, to go anywhere, particularly the central belt of Scotland, where most people live. And you don't need to go up and ask people in the busier times, excuse me, what religion are you? All you do is, if you see somebody with Muslim headgear on, the women, for example, right? Now, so then just count 50 women and go, okay, well, that was 7 that I seen, right? Well, that's 14%, okay? If you see 7 out of 50. And I'm like, these figures are total shite, right? Now, at that census as well, the population of the UK was apparently 67, going on 68 million. Now, what this person had done that I spoke to today, she'd done a lot of investigation into this and compiling figures. And like people that are in the food supply, people that are in the water supply, people that are in the drains, right? So they can figure out how much we eat, how much we drink, and how much waste that causes once we're getting drunk, right? And the figures, the average is, the estimation is, we've got 80 million people here. That's compared to a census that was 67 to 68 million. Now, that was 4 or 5 years ago. But the expected figure now, the closest guesstimate we can get is with populations at 69,000. So let's just call it 70, because it's easier to count, right? Sorry, 60. It was 57, 58, as 59, so let's just call it 60 million. So if the real figure, and you look at the sort of averages of what these people are suggesting, then we'll get 20 million people here that we don't know about. If you put that 20 million into the population, then you go, well, 2.2, we can now understand why I look at Melinda and I see more, because the only ones that are telling us are here in the census amounted to 2.2%. The scary bit is, there's some, and I think it was the drainage system, that they were reckoning we could have as much as 90 million. So that's 50% more people than we think in our country. So anybody, the reason we have census in the modern days is so we can model things and work out how much stuff we need, infrastructure, roads and houses and NHS. And is it any wonder our country is proper shite, right? Because if we're planning all these things on a census figures of 60 million, and we've got 80, maybe 90 in the most horrific of cases, is it any wonder we're busting at the seams? Because that's the figures that government use, when they're planning stuff, right? Well, that's what the census is all about. It's to give them the data that they can then work out complex things like how many hospitals do we need? Do you know what I mean? How many roads do we need? How many buses do we need? How many NHS staff do we need? And then when you figure that out, you suddenly realise why it is such a shambles, because we've got so many people here that we don't know is here. And it could be 30 million. Let's even take the best scenario. We've got 20 million people here that we don't know. That's like a third more, right? We wonder why our schools are busting at the seams. Because again, you use that data and you go, right, we need X amount of classrooms per X amount of kids. If the data's wrong, that's why we're miles out. And it's stuff like that I want to highlight as well. But that's proper potty. So that's the video. I'll get a video smashed up about that for the morning. But it's just crazy. Right, let's see. I'm a wee bit behind you. We got that one. Craig, I'm telling everyone I know in Glasgow to vote for you because you will fight for the people. So good luck. Thanks very much, Claire. I really do appreciate that. Can you build a ferry in Leighton Leash? I could probably, my dad was a draftsman, right? And I'm sure he's got drawings. I found a case he has, right, in his garage. I've got it in the other room there. He's been dead like 10 plus years, 11 years now. And there was a case that I found like maybe 3 years ago and opened it up. And it was one of his works ones for back in the day. I seen these drawings. All these boats and stuff. It was phenomenal. So I get some of my dad's old drawings out. I could probably build a boat in 8 years. Not physically myself, but go, right, we need welders, right? We need somebody to be a gaffer, right? So who knows a bit more about shipbuilding than me. And what do you need? Do you need many welders, many joiners, many electricians? Right. Okay. How long will that take? Right. And probably build a ferry in less than 8 years. I'd love to know what you're talking about, Tech. Exactly, that's the point, Craig. Because I'm 7 minutes behind when I'm looking through the chat. So, Craig, on voting day, don't wear the hoodie, and you're bound to win. What's up with the hoodie? Because of the postcode. Nothing wrong with that postcode, bumpy. I've got a wee shirt on that day. Maybe a nice open neck shirt. I'm thinking about buying a suit, right? For when I'm up at the count with all the Norbits, Like Tony Bennett, Conservative Party, 4,000. Lord Craig Houston of Linwood, 27,545. And Big Kev goes nuts, right? I'm taking Kev to the count, right? Kev's been with me this full journey, so he was tickled pink. He was on the phone saying, Craig, see when you get the election thing that night, are you going to celebrate? Because if so, I'll come through to Glasgow. And I went, well, come through and I'll get you into the count, right? It's made up. So we'll be mad Kev, right? You'll need to watch it, right? Because it'll be dead funny. You'll just hear the big and minty shouting and roaring and all that. That's it. Craig says we have to adopt a Ouija to vote if we can't. I'm adopting you. Who's you? Me? No, you can't adopt somebody that's already voting for me, Jenny. That's a bit pointless. That doesn't add to the votes, right? Aye, 2.2% of some votes, right? I'm going to just whiz through the comments and see the queues. If I miss some, it's just, I'm sorry. Right, that's me bang up to date. I'm doing to here. Wear a kilt. I don't suit a kilt. I can't get a kilt. It doesn't look getting a bar stupid. So I'll maybe get a haircut. I'll maybe do that. Or will I wear the bonnet? Will I wear the cap? Let Scotland. See this cap, by the way. Do you know what? Somebody pulled me up about it yesterday and said that should say let Britain work. And I was like, no, I'm in a Scottish election, right? And I said, see if I was going to do a council election, if I was like a councillor for Glasgow Council, it'd say let Glasgow work. So that was the point. And I hadn't thought about it before, but then what I've realised, seeming out and about with the hat on, I get a lot of folk double taking me because I think they think it's some sort of independence thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a big unionist guy. He's got a bonnet on saying let Scotland work. Oh, good news for you. Unionists are allowed to want a better Scotland as well. It's not an unusual thing. What's this? I asked if I could move in with you so I could vote for... Move in with who? You've asked me to move in with me before. I said no, right? Kev's going to reveal day... Oh, I know. That's a great point. See, you get the count starts at 9 in the morning, right? Because they don't do them right after the election anymore. They're doing them the next day. So the count starts at 9. So you can go in at 9, right? But they'll not have the first results out to about 5. And what the parties do is they send people in to count. So they stand over the shoulder of a counter and they'll count 100 sheets. And they'll go, right, we get 20 out of that. So we're on 20%. And that's how they and you see them all faces dripping them at some points and some of them dead happy because that's what they do, right? But me and Kev will probably just be sat in the back laughing at them all, right? So, but aye, imagine Kev with all them in the room. That would be mental, right? And I'm not wearing a kilt just because you put one, right? It's not happening. It's not happening. So yous can bolt, right? I'll get a nice wee shirt and tie. That'll do me. Nobody's getting married. Right, well, I'm pretty disappointed, right? And I'm going to try it one more time. And if nobody takes me up on this offer, I'm not talking anymore, right? So I'm going to give you 5-10 minutes. I've put a link there in the comments. So I don't know what you're shouting. Yes, Candy, I'm going to be shouting about this till the 7th. I don't know, I've missed something. Only thing I plan on doing the 7th of May, we've got this. No, I've missed it. I've missed it, sorry. I wonder, right, I've never done it before, do a live off my phone, right? And get me and Kev at the count with the yellow scooter parked outside. That would be a laugh, wouldn't it? Right, I've put, right, that's a defo, right? Suit and the brown shoes, blue suit, brown brogues, right? Staunch. See, I'm past that. People don't care that I'm a Rangers fan, a unionist, right? The amount of people, tell you a funny story about wee Alec, right? Oh, see the amount of Celtic supporters that's voting for me, it's nuts, right? Because I've never had the Scrammer Bear get on with it, right? He said he was in Dumbarton Road today, and the guy ran across the road. Alec. He's like, oh, see you and that Craig, see when you do videos together, I love it, right? And he's got a Celtic trackie on, right? And he's like, Alec, by the way, let the big you know I'm voting for him. And Alec's like, you got a Celtic trackie on? He went, I know. A couple of years ago I hated him, but he's all right now. Brilliant, man. It's brilliant. So, but aye, so maybe that's the sort of thing a lot of people wouldn't do. Because I might offend somebody. You know, if I look like a Rangers supporter, I've never hidden that. Don't care. Nobody's wear a frock, aye, or get in with the greens. I might do that, Doug. I'll be voting in Long Street, so I will need to be there at some point, right? But I don't know, there's rules against you can't campaign in the 7th, so we'll maybe need to get the grapes in the district to put some big vote Hoosty banners out so nobody forgets on the way in, right? Yes, I could get a plant in the Blue Star Club. That's what we could do. Get a wee rab, hiding behind the door. By the way, is the internet now better that I sorted that VPN out? Please let somebody let me know, because I can't see what you're doing. See, there we go. What did I tell you? Right? There's hundreds of them, right? And it's brilliant, because when I started doing this, somebody's like, well, you're a mad Rangers. I can't hide I'm a Rangers fan. If you Google my name and put Rangers beside it and hit search, right, hundreds of stuff will come up because I spent 3 years campaigning against rogues and vagabonds in Ibrox, right? So I'm never hiding it. And the amount of people who, and the thing that upsets some people is that Celtic fans are voting for me, right? Because when somebody is on Twitter and they'll go, I'm a Celtic fan, I'm voting for Craig, folk like, you're not a real Celtic fan, you wouldn't be voting for him. You're like, you're a nugget, right? If you can't see past that and see a candidate that you think will serve you well in Holyrood, then you're bonkers. You're the one that's a problem. And I get called a big bigoted bee. You're like, well, hold on a minute, mate. You're the one that's got a problem with people from your side of the city voting for a guy for this side of the city, right? I've not got a problem with it. The people voting me have not got a problem with it. And if I was a bigot, excuse me, I would kind of guess that none of these people that are voting for me, that don't support Rangers, would be voting for me, right? It's just nuts. Play the tune 24/7. Aye. Big Craig. Get all the pubs to put it out the windies. Bumpy, I'm really sorry to hear that. Condolences, buddy. I don't know what to say now. And that's exactly the point. That's it. There we go. That's it. But, you know, I did expect some Celtic supporters to vote for me, right? But the volume's nuts. And the fact that they stop and say to me, Biggie, I'm voting for you. But by the way, you need to know I'm a Celtic fan. It's madder, right? It's just mad. Football rivalry ended when the teams bought most of their players from abroad, Craig. Well, I know. I mean, you try to tell me there's no a better rivalry in Old Firm Day, right? Because there is, right? And I'll be shouting like a maniac. Nobody saying any bad words, right? I'm kind of past that, right? But Rangers play Celtic, we're competing for each other in the league. God, I'm a staunch Rangers fan as you'll get. But after that, the game's done. If Celtic win, I might not go out that night. If Rangers win, I might not go out that night because it gets mental. But that's kind of where it is. I'm a Rangers fan every day of the week. But, we're talking politics. It doesn't matter. And that's the way it should be. And I think what's happened is there's another one. Look, I mean, even the name, Gizmo 1967. Anybody from Glasgow knows, without even looking at his profile, Gizmo's a Celtic fan, right? Or do you mean the 1967's a bit of giveaway? I don't think he's nearly 60, right? And it's just the way it is. And I think the country, it's actually a crazy thing, isn't it? The fact that the country's so bad is bringing folk together. If everything was wonderful, people wouldn't even get a second. So I think it shows you that people were worrying about more important things now. Do you know what I mean? So there is a bit, and I've got a great joke about that, but I can't say it out loud because folk will be like, "Oh, he's a bigot. He said that F word, right?" And it was a joke I heard years ago, and I couldn't move. It was way back when Amoruso was a Rangers captain, so that's going back a few years. And somebody says, "What's the difference between an F?" You can probably understand the word, and a Roman Catholic. Well, other than having two different names, one of them's no bad, one of them's a bit horrific. Nothing. He went, Roman Catholics. Roman Catholic can be a captain of Rangers, right? And I thought, right, I get it now. Nobody other than Rangers and Celtic fans will listen to that. Right, where are we going now? Right, I'm disappointed. I've done it. I can't say that word. It's proverb. Don't even try to get me to say it, right? There'll be people snapping that going, look, he's a bigot, racist, homophobic, Islamophobic, bigot, right? I don't know. Who'd have thought, right? Oh, here we go. We've got somebody in the room, and it's Candy, and she's got her. Hello, Candy.
Hi. Sorry,
Hello.
I don't have my I don't know. Sorry, I don't have my picture.
We can hear you.
I don't know what happened there.
Sorry. It's not a problem.
Okay.
So, what you up to? Ask me a question or make a big point, a really good point. What's your plan?
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. That's just me on the internet, right? I just wanted to say,
You better start talking, because I've done an hour yet.
So, I'm voting for you, right? Like, in my head, it's like, that's what I'm doing on that day. Like, I'm going to vote for Craig, right? Like, and I know Jenny is,
Yeah.
you know, she's always shouting
Thank
out
you.
in that. But part of why I'm voting for you, right, is because
Yeah.
I fully believe that even if there was a tiny little chance that you didn't get it, that you're still going to be in the streets with us, like fighting for this city to be better. Um,
Mhm.
I've met friends
Can I
all
just
over the
stop you there,
world
Candy?
because of YouTube.
See if- Brilliant. Well, what I'll say to you, Candy, is even if I do get in, I'll still
Yeah.
be in the streets. I'll no change.
Yeah.
Kev will still be my pal. I'll still slaughter him in Twitter spaces. I'll still be having my podcasts. I'll still be doing all this. So, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So don't worry about that. I'll be going to protests. I'm going to one the 16th of May. So that's already planned. Whether I get in or I don't get in, I'll be there. So it ain't stopping,
Yeah.
buddy. So you'll no need to miss me because I'll still be in the streets. And I'm sure that if I got up my own arse and became somebody different, like Sir Kev and Basil and wee Alex Kearney, the AC Spartan, they wouldn't let me. They're my pals, right? But Holbiggin, sit down, right? So it's no, you don't need to worry about that. I'll still be in the streets regardless, right? I'll still be going to protests. I'll still be going about with my camera. I might not get as many videos done because obviously they know this is kind of my full-time job, right? If I'm in there, and then that needs to become my full-time job. But what I'm planning on doing is when Parliament only sits a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday, right? So the days that I'm up there, I can go up when I'm finished, stick a camera on, and tell folk the shite I heard in the other day, right? That's kind of what I want to do. And then the Mondays and Fridays, you're meant to be back in your constituencies, dealing with stuff, going to committee meetings, all that stuff. So you might be a wee bit more out and about on a Monday and a Friday, and I can do my stuff. And then the weekend, well, I'm off, right? So that's, I can be the normal Craig then. But so who are you going to vote for in your first paper, Scandi? Have you decided?
It's hard to decide, right? Because no one else talks like you do, right? Like we've not seen anyone else sit and have any sort of long form conversation. A lot of people just don't seem human, right? They just seem like a little gimmicky and stuff. Um, so yeah, but you're the one that I actually care about this time round, right? Because you seem like a real human being, and I've seen that you're kind of being called into this rather than like you're not some showbiz personality that's like, oh, I'm in this for politics. Like you're in it for the people, and I don't know. I sense that about you, and I sense that about Kev, right? That no matter what, like you're just gonna fight to the end of all of us, right? Like, yeah.
It's important to us. Do you know what I mean? Most people that are doing anything like I do, Kev's just at it. I mean, he took a huff a couple of weeks ago. So I'm not going to any more protests. Nobody goes to them. Phoned them last night. Kev, I'm going to do a live. You coming on? No, I'm going to Falkirk to a protest, right? And you're like, mate, you're apt to protest for about 3 days, right? And you care.
Yeah.
And I think it's when you get to my age and you think we are potentially the first generation in the history of probably Britain that are about to hand over the country in a worse situation than we got it off our parents. You kind of go, well, we kind of need to try and do something. And my something started with a 10-minute moan in November 2023. And I didn't, in November 2023, I wasn't like, I'm going to try and get a job as an MSP. That was never what happened. And then, I don't know why, but the videos became quite popular quite quick. And then it just went nuts, right? And then I got an FOI done, which showed some shitty things that Hamza Yusuf had done. And that video really propelled me because the Telegraph in London put it in the front page of their paper on a Saturday morning, and they said, and this information came from Craig Houston, podcaster for Glasgow. So they were nice enough to credit me with getting the information. And that kind of went nuts after that, and that would have been about February 2024. That would have been. And then people were like,
It's
you need to
went
get into that place.
fast.
If you can get that amount of information outside. What, sorry?
It's went fast.
Oh, I know. And then people are like, you want to get elected for. And then we're here now. And it was bonkers. See, seeing that vote coming through. I was actually in a space with Basil, and I had some notifications. So I was listening, and I flicked through, and I went, "What's that?" Some woman's, I don't know, man or a woman, because I couldn't tell with their Twitter name. I sent this photo, and I'm like, "What's that?" Right, that's a ballot. And then I realised the postal votes were landing today. So this person's got it, took it straight out, and went, "Big Craig," and stuck a
Awesome.
photo. See, no, it's pretty bizarre, right? It was actually quite emotional. I mean, I'm 6'1", 118 stone, right? But I've got a heart. Do you know what I mean? And it was actually very emotional. Thinking, I don't even know who this person is. It's not like my cousin, right? I don't have a clue who it is, and they voted for me. And the other thing, I mean, it's mad, right? But see the amount of people that are saying, "I've never voted in my life, but I'm voting for you." Or even madder, there's some people said to me, "I'm not even been registered to vote, and I'm registered to vote just so I can vote for you." I'm like, this is mad. This is just bonkers. And it's quite humbling. But what it's also doing, Candy, it's making me more determined. Because just the stuff that some people are going through, to support me, and just, I think, see, when people have hope in you, right, that's quite a responsibility, because now I'm responsible for all these people's hopes, right, and I don't want to let them down. So I'll work really hard to get elected, and when we get in, I'll work really hard every day to make sure none of them, I don't want a single person that votes for me to go at in 2 years. See that big Craig? I thought he was going to do an X, Y, and Z, and he never done it. I would hate that. It'd break my heart. So I kind of just need to take that on board. I need to take that responsibility. And I don't want to let these people down by missing it by 500 votes or something, or going up there and we've been a bit of an arse. So we'll just keep it real, Candy. Is that all right?
Yeah, you don't want people saying, "Oh, that big Craig, he's changed."
Aye, you know who the first person to say that would be, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But yeah, I think these are fantastic. And I think that you're going places, right? And yeah, it's good to see. And it's good to see all the Scots around a little bit, because there's a lot, I love Britain, but there's a lot of English news.
Mhm.
So it's good to see what's happening in Scotland, and getting to check in with everybody.
Mhm.
But I'll jump off and I'll let
And I'm
someone
looking
else
putting the
come and
videos.
tell you good luck, best of luck,
Candy,
and thanks for
the
everything you do.
No, thank you for supporting me, Candy. I think you've been in every live that I've ever done. And it'd be kind of lonely if I wasn't. And what I like about it is, see, when I'm on and I'm chatting and I'm watching the chat, I don't get to read them all, right? Because there's so many, and I'm looking for questions. But I see you all having wee chats with each other. There's like a wee community. Half the names that I see are people that have been coming into the lives. And I do apologise. We were doing loads of them last summer. And then I kind of lost my way a wee bit. My head was, I got arrested in May, right? And it kind of took 2 or 3 months to hit me what was happening. And then I struggled, I'll be honest with you, right through to Christmas and that. And then at Christmas, I thought, shit, the election's this year now, it's upon us. I need to get my game back in order. But I really liked doing the June and July was really busy for them. And then as we get into the autumn, it kind of quieting down. But they were great, and I was talking to Kev about them last week. I said, you know what? It's just them, because I'm putting less videos out because I'm out doing stuff for campaigning during the day. So I'm not getting to put. I normally start recording my videos about 2 o'clock for that day, and I'll put one out at 6, one out at 8 if I've got two. But I'm getting to like 6 o'clock, and I'm like, I've not recorded anything, and it's kind of too late. So I thought I'll just stay the lives, and that'll keep me, keep the channel ticking over and keep people in interest. So aye, and who knows, would maybe imagine doing them for Holyrood. That'd be mad, wouldn't it?
That'd be cool.
Somebody's saying, I hope you
Yeah.
won't become part of the establishment. That's kind of, I hope that's no Thomas Ingram, the Kennel, the vet Thomas Ingram. So I expect better for you if that is.
But yeah, Craig, I've met people from your chat and you telling the news that I talk to in other places now, right? Like we're friends.
Oh,
We're in the same, we're friends.
that's mental, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's me and Kev. We didn't know each other until I started the YouTube channel, and then I went on to Twitter, and I bumped into him. His mates, a lot of
Yeah.
his mates are Rangers fans. They knew me from old. And when I started the channel, it was all Rangers fans because my channel started off, I was interviewing like ex-Rangers players and ex-Rangers chairmen and all that stuff. And then I just went like, one day I can't be bothered with these politicians. I'm just going to put them on. And it's kind of went for there. So the people that were on my channel right at the start, they were like Rangers fans, 90% of them, because why would you want to watch me talking to all these Rangers players? And it was a few of Kev's pals that had been watching a lot. By the way, this boy here's into politics news. And then I got invited through to Edinburgh by a group talking Edinburgh. And Kev had seen it was advertised and he got a ticket and he came through and that was the first we met each other face to face and just been pals ever since. So I suppose if that happens to me, it's going to happen to the community. So who have you met in real life without doxing anybody?
Well, I would say that I know if I needed a secret hideout, Michael and Jenny would give me one.
That's good. She's all right, isn't she?
I know Jenny would make me a bit of cake, right, and let me just sit in her bunker if I had to.
Sat in her bunker. Well, there's this question we are. It's just a statement. It says, when Craig hits 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, will you put the silver plaque in the desk in the Parliament? Of course I will. Because I'll be making videos for there every day. I'll get it sitting here like all the YouTubers do. The plaque's always sitting about here, isn't it? Oh, there's another thing that's reminded me. Somebody said, time to make the executive class of civil service servants again. Right. I don't want anybody to call me a politician when we get to Holland. What I want people to call me as a civil servant, because that's kind of what you're doing. You're working for people. I left school, I was in civil service for a year. I hated it. But I thought, that's the title I want. And you know, when you go on holiday, they thought, what would you do for a living? Imagine going like that, I'm a politician. Nobody would talk to you, right? That would be the last conversation you had with anybody in that hotel, because they'll be like, that crank's a politician, stay away from him, right? Hide the wains, right? Definitely keep the wains away from him, he's a politician. So I think I would say to strangers, what is it you do for a living? Just say, I work civil service. All right, what do you do in the civil service? Oh, I work in the Scottish Government, it's a boring job, right? That's I don't want to be known as a politician because I don't like politicians. I never wanted to be one. I don't mind being a civil servant because I've already been one of them for a wee bit of my life. So we'll just be a civil servant. Is that all right?
That sounds good.
Where are we? Question. Can you vote for a party yourself and whom? I'm Restore. Right. Well, you get two votes, Gizmo. The first one is for your constituency. So if you're in Glasgow, it could be Glasgow Pollock, for example, or Rutherglen, or wherever you live. You've got a constituency. That's your first paper. So that's all them. The second vote you get is for the whole area. So everybody in Glasgow is voting for that whole area one, and that's the one I'm in with the 7 seats up for grabs. So I'll be voting, or I don't know if I'll vote at all. But what you're saying there is you Restore. Unfortunately, you know yourself, Restore, it's a wee bit early for them, so they don't have any candidates, but they've already declared that they're having candidates for the council elections in Scotland next year. So that, for yourself, would be superb, because you can get somebody to vote for your favourite party. But in the first paper, you don't need to vote for anybody, but you can vote for anybody you want on there. And I genuinely don't know who I'm going to vote for. I don't like the SNP. So in my constituency, the party best to get to beat them is probably the only party that could get near them and potentially beat them is Labour, right? So it means I'm obviously never going to vote for SNP, but unless I vote for Labour, I'm not really helping the story. And I just don't know if I can actually palate that, because they've ruined the country as well. So I don't know. And if I vote for anybody else in it, it kind of doesn't matter, because there's nobody else in my constituency, unfortunately, that's got a chance of beating them. So it's a toughie for me, mate. I don't know what I'm going to do. But certainly if Restore were on the first paper, I'd vote for them, right? Because they're all right. I quite like them. And if I can be half as good as Rupert Lowe up in our Parliament, then that'll be a good job. Do you know what I mean? We'll have done well. So there's somebody saying there you've got to vote Tory. Well, again, it depends where you are, because if you're here in my constituency, Tories are never going to get near it. So it doesn't matter if you vote for them or put your thing in the bin. You're not going to get them. So unfortunately, that's it. Right,
It's hard to decide who to pick for one. Some people don't even seem like real humans. I said some people it's hard to like even consider choosing them, right? Because some people went to schools to learn to be a politician, and they're comfy families that have got like, their granddad was a politician, and
Right.
so for me, a lot of people, is like that's not even a real thing to them anymore, right?
No.
Um,
See
it's
people like that Ross
yeah, I
Greer.
just want to find real people, right? Like real people
Aye.
like yourself, Craig. That's and I feel like I like the way Rupert pushes back on people, that it makes them uncomfortable and asks for
Aye.
accountability for like where
Do you know what I
money's
like?
spent and stuff, right? Like I want to see
That's
more
what I
of
like to do.
that. Yeah,
Yep.
I want to see more
That's my
maths
plan to do.
being done. Yeah.
Aye. And do you know what I like about Rupert Lowe, right? See, sometimes folk have a quote him. They're like, you shouldn't be doing that. How can you dare to ban halal meat? You shouldn't do it because X, Y, and Z. And he's like, don't care. Right? Don't care. That's what we're doing, right? And it's like, deal with it. So I know the things that people are concerned with in the UK, because I've been all over the UK in the last 2 years going to protests, talking at protests, making my videos. I've been as far north as Peterhead, been over to Ballymena, Manchester, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Falkirk, off at protest, Manchester, been to Epping, been down to Braintree, been to London, travelled to Dover to see what was going on there, jumped on a ferry, went out to Cali, got a fright of my life, wondered how did he get into Europe, jumped on a plane, went out to Lesbos in Greece. So I kind of, you get to understand what people are concerned with. And these people don't. Ross Greer will never been, brought up in a council estate like I was. Ross Greer, I've had times in my adult life and I've been in particularly bad places and slept in my motor for times that people didn't even know I didn't have a roof over my head. And don't get me wrong, I've had times in my life when I've had fantastic jobs and Jaguars, Mercedes, and even the Bentley once as a company car. So do you know what I mean? I've seen the ups and the downs. So I kind of know. I was born in Linwood and the car plant out there shut. That whole town of Linwood was built basically for the staff of the car plant. When the car plant shut down, the whole town was like nobody had a job. So I've seen how communities can get destroyed by just one person's decision. I understand all this. Whereas your Ross Greer, he's a typical one. Never had a job in his life. I think he went to Glasgow Uni for about 3 weeks and then ended up a politician. And you think you can't stand up there and tell me you understand what's going on in the world out there. Unfortunately, I'm 53 years into this life and I've had many highs, many great days, many great experiences, but I've seen some shit as well. Do you know what I mean? I've lived through some shit. So it's real.
Yeah.
There's no that many politicians, Candy, I've got the experiences. So it's kind of some Sal's asking me what constituency. Again, don't want to bore folk have been listening, but it's the whole region of Glasgow, mate. So there's about 8 or 9 constituencies in there, and you get 2 votes. First one's for your wee constituency, second one's for your region. So everybody in Glasgow, but there's a wee weird bit down at the bottom. So it's Glasgow Rutherglen as a constituency, where some of it's in South Lanarkshire, which is Cambuslang and Blantyre. They're in the Glasgow region as well, so they get to vote for us as well in the regional list.
It's
Poor
amazing how
Tories.
many places you've been up and down the country to protest and to say your piece,
Aye.
and and to champion for all the people who can't, right? Because not everyone can jump in a car, and it's like that is a big effort, it's a big expense as well, right? But you have, and you've shown people like this is what it's like around the place, and that's
Aye.
pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I would like to do more of it as well. I think it would be mental being an MSP and just walking into like a drug rehab centre saying, right, what are we dealing with here? And get it real. And I want to
Yeah.
go to school. I want to go into school. See, I've had 18 years experience as a volunteer football coach with kids. And you learn a lot about kids, spending time with them, and you understand that life's a bit different for kids than when I was a kid. Different. Certainly a lot of things are a lot better, but a lot of things are just the expectations, society, the way kids interact. Kids are far more grown up too quick, I think. But I kind of think we need to go into schools and talk to kids at 14 and try and encourage them not to be that person that plays the PlayStation all day and just signs on and gets whatever they get in life. There are other options out there, because I think it's 20% of our people up to 25 have never ever contributed to society by paying tax and national insurance, and that's bloody frightening. And if we can get into schools and say, right, we've got a shortage of train drivers, so just arrange to go to every high school in Glasgow over the course of maybe a month and take somebody for the train industry and somebody for the transport department and say, right, we want to talk to all your 14 to 16-year-olds. Listen, here's a job that's great paying job, good benefits, local, all these perks. If you get one kid in each high school going, I could maybe be a train driver, that's great. There's other things they keep telling us we've got skill shortages of. We've got carers. When I was at school, the amount of people that were like, I want to be a nurse when I grow up, I don't hear that now. And encourage kids to consider that. And the really bright ones, we need to make more spaces available for them at our universities, because our universities are full of other people's kids, because we cap the amount of kids that go to our universities, because we do this free education. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but because we cap it, there's kids that could go to college and uni and could afford to pay. They don't get the opportunity. So we need to really have a good look at that. And then other kids who are sharp, but maybe just for some reason they don't like school or it doesn't work for them, but they've got great entrepreneurial skills. Well, we need to find ways of getting them. These are the future. They're the ones that will start the companies that start employing people when they're in their 40. They might have a factory that's employing 100 people. So we need to try and capture them. We need houses, and we don't really see that many young boys going, I want to be a bricklayer, I want to be a sparky. So we need to infuse them, and girls as well. I mean, it's a bit sexist, but that's what it was like in my day. Different now. Girls are plumbers and electricians as well. So, we need to think about these things. And and I don't have a problem getting into schools and talking to kids. I've been doing it for 18 years as a football coach. And I like to think, I've maybe helped some of these kids with things in life, but just making sure they were disciplined and, turn up for training in time and don't blame your mom. The amount of kids you'd go, where's your shin pads? My mom never packed them. Right, well, it's not your mom's responsibility. Your mom's no playing. It's your responsibility. So what you do is, on Friday when you come to training, when you get home from school, you make your bag. Just daft things like that. And we need that all over the place, I just feel as if I'm talking to you on the phone. I'm forgetting I'm doing a podcast.
Yeah. I'll read the chat at the same time sometimes, but then you get lost in the chat and then you forget that, Craig can hear my voice if I talk.
Right, here's new
Do you know
beginnings
what you
saying,
said about university there, Craig? So
aye,
I'm in university just now, right? And I don't
brilliant.
qualify for anything. Like, there's no extra help. There's no, she's a poor white peasant, let's give her a leg up. There's none of that coming my way. But I can see where other people get to access it. And in the space and time since COVID, like, we give away places because China give the university a backhander. We've given away places to kids in Gaza. Like, we've promised them 4 years. But that's not just 4 years of uni, that's housing, food, like,
Right.
bring your granny over, so that is something that I feel sorry for kids in high school now, because they don't know what they're walking into, and they're just getting a lot of chances taken away from them. So I would like school to be school again, right? Just old school. Let's count. Let's learn to tell time.
I know, that was crazy. That stupid woman says, it's not that important if I can't count, I've got calculators. Well, shut up and sit down. You should be able to know what 2 times 4 is without using a calculator. Right? Calculators are there when you're doing 247,562 divided by 1.452. You kind of need a calculator for that. I could do that with a piece of paper, but it'd take me a while, right? But see if I've just got like that, right? I need 20 metres of skirting board, and it comes in 5 metre lengths. How many lengths do I need? If you need a calculator to work that out, you wouldn't know how to put it in a calculator to work it out for you, because you don't understand the concept. That's bonkers to me. But What age are you? Sorry, what age are you, if you don't mind me asking, Candy?
I'm coming up on 40.
All right, so you're a mature student.
Yeah,
Good for you. What are you studying?
psychology.
Oh God, you're analysing me right now, aren't you?
No, I'm not quick enough for that.
Right, the
Um,
question here.
but
Oh,
so one of the
sorry,
things I
Candy.
wanted to do with psychology was always relationship counselling. But now
Okay.
I'm very aware of all these people who have been victims of the grooming gangs are going to have people sit them down and tell them, you suffered a bad thing, but you're not a bad person, right? Like, I would like to be able to sit with those people and say to them, like, there's still a way to not have this mess up your life, right? Because they went through like horrific things. Um,
Mhm.
and that sticks, right? That can break people. So
Yeah, I
I'd like
think
to
the
be
amount
qualified enough to do that.
that would be really worthwhile, because I think everybody who's been abused has got some baggage with them that's going to affect them the rest of their life. Whether they've had the best counselling in the world, the best help in the world, but they all need help. And soldiers coming back from horrible situations need help. That must be horrific as well. But aye, that would be a good thing. That would be a good thing. Anyway, somebody said there,
Mm.
talking to Alex, when you get in, is there anything you will be able to do, stroke planning to do, to help his mission? I'd come in the stream, but I'm English. You're allowed in being English, mate. I've just popped, and it's just coming up in the messages just now, mate. You can come in and click that and come in. Feel free. But I would love to get Alex involved. You know, when they have all these committees and they get all these, call them stakeholders, and they talk to, whatever it is they're want to discuss, and get Alex involved in some of this. And so people in there can hear Alex, and he can tell them exactly what's going on in our streets. And Alex got arrested and charged with a crime when he stopped a bad man going on his way to meet an 11-year-old girl. And he actually got charged with abduction for holding this guy while the police came. There's no any circumstances that's acceptable. If he'd done the same in England, he would be protected under civil arrest jurisdiction. We do not have the same laws in Scotland. We do have a law, but it's not the same in England. That meant that Alex was allowed to be charged. If Alex had done the exact same thing in Carlisle, he wouldn't have been charged. So we kind of need that. That's one thing that I'm keen to look at with Alex in mind, and see if there's any way of getting him in the building to talk to people and say, look, this is how bad it is. He's at the coalface. Listen to this man. What can we then do to protect him and allow him to do what he's doing and prevent it from happening at the same time? And see how we get on with that. But I popped the thing in,
There
the
was a
link in
man
event.
in the local park, Craig, and he was hiding in a bush taking pictures of children. And another man apprehended him, grabbed him and said, and then two other men came over to stop the fight, But that man had 150 images of children in his phone,
Wow,
but
that's not
it's
right. Isn't it?
the man who stopped him that is now going to be up in court, right? Like
That's
for,
madness.
assault, racism, whatever it is they want to throw at him. So
Mhm.
that's kind of worrying. And I know loads of, even my own brother is in trouble because he was fighting some Albanian guys at a car wash and he was shouting at them because he knew they were drug dealers, they speak to children. And then, so my brother's passed and shouted, like, something. Anyway, these men, like, physically were fighting my brother. They tried to put him in the back of a van, stuff like this. But then when the police came, they are going to take my brother to jail for racism.
Did you
Like,
see
he
I've
has a
done a
court
video with
case
my wee
in
auntie?
May and all that. Yeah.
Oh, it's shocking. My wee auntie, not Christmas Day, the one before, she saw a shoplifter in Morrison's in Partick and pointed him out. He had a big bottle of vodka up his jib, and she went to the security guy at the door. She said, see if you go up to that aisle there, there's a boy who's got stolen vodka up his jacket. So she went about her shopping, and when she was coming out, the guy was over at the cigarette counter, and she's looking, thinking, they've not lifted him, they've not done anything. And she's like, I'm sure he's still got the vodka up his juke. So as he went to go out the door, she put her hands up and said, "Here, that's that guy, security." And my auntie get charged with racist assault. And you're like,
That's
she's nearly
sad.
70. And she's get taken up to court, and they get flung out because the guy who's obviously the key witness, he never turned up, and they flung the court case out. And you're like, what are we doing here? What actually are we doing? And it's bonkers.
Yeah.
Somebody said,
Yeah, I don't want
Craig,
to live in a world like that. Like,
no, you don't. You want to be in a world that you're
where you're
rewarded for doing
taking,
stuff like that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Anyway, somebody here saying, I can't read Angelina, my eyes on the working today. Craig, your films for us was deserve an award. I loved doing them actually, but I was shitting myself the whole time I was there. It was just nuts. All the stuff that was crazy stuff that was going on. And when I was there, I must have put out maybe 3 videos while I was there. And the only reason I done it was I knew if I didn't put videos out, my girlfriend would be like, what's going on with him? He's not put videos out. I hope he's all right. I didn't want to worry her. And I didn't want to tell her the situations I was seeing. So I put out some videos while I was there, kind of soft stories. And then I flew back to Manchester, and I had a meeting in Manchester the next day. So I'd booked a hotel room. And when I got into the hotel room, it was about tea time. And I just got my video out, and I just went, here, guys, see all that stuff you've heard in the last 3 days? That happened, right? But wait, I tell you the real story. And I sat there for about half an hour just telling chronological order, all the madness. It was proper nuts. I genuinely thought, I'm not getting him here. But it was worth it because I learnt so much about it's just a pure scam. The whole thing's a scam. And I spoke to guys out the asylum camp, and they're like, this is what we do. Nobody's seeking asylum. One of the guys I spoke to spent a bit of time with him. He was going to there's a bus stop outside the camp, and it's about a drive away for the capital. And I was actually going to Lidl's to get water, and I seen it at the bus stop, and I thought, see if there's any time of asylum seeking at a bus stop, I'm going to stop and talk to them. So I pulled in, I was like, excuse me, son, you for that asylum camp? He's like, aye. I went, oh, son, I've heard it's terrible in there, because you get told all these stories. Overcrowded, like a prison and all that. He's like, can't be a prison, I'm here. I'm outside, I'm going down to the town to meet a friend. I said, well, come on, I'll drop you off. And I took him a run to get him into the wee capital island. And I was like, where is it your face? Cameroon. It's like, what's going on in Cameroon? It's like, nothing. It's like, why are you asylum seeker? And he had a friend in Luxembourg, and he wanted to go and stay with him and just live there. But he couldn't get a normal visa to go and live there. So what he's done was he got a flight from Cameroon into Turkey, then went on a train up to the north of Turkey, which is only about 6 miles from Lesbos, and then paid money to go on a dinghy to come into Lesbos, and then says, I'm asylum seeker, and throws his passport away. And then he will get granted asylum because nobody doesn't. He then gets transported to mainland, and he can go wherever he wants in Greece because they give him a Greek asylum travel document, and that lets him get access to anywhere in the mainland Europe. So he's just going to go to Luxembourg, and then he says, I've been that when I get to Luxembourg, and I get a different name, and I just try and stay in Luxembourg as long as I can. And you're like, but what do you tell them when you get to the asylum process bit? He says, well, I told them that there's a new government coming into Cameroon, and I'm an enemy of theirs, and my life's in danger. It's like, and is it? Like, and then, so what happens then is they get granted asylum, right?
And they teach people how to like get to Britain, right? Like, and then they all talk in the comments saying like, yeah, say this, say that, like. So the way you're telling us the news, yeah, they're teaching each other the scam, right? It's just a game to them. Like, yeah, get to Britain and you get free milk and shoes.
So that boy wants to go to Luxembourg, and I said to him, but see all the guys in the camp, how many are coming to Britain? And he's like, oh, nearly all of them. I was like, why Britain? And he went, well, some of them speak English, so it makes sense going to Britain. But most of them is just to know that it's good to be an asylum seeker in Britain. And I'm like, this is some scam in it. So, and people that try to justify it, they say things like, well, you don't have to gain asylum in the first country you land in, and that is true. But when you land in Greece, they put you in a centre. If they don't give you asylum, they send you back, but they don't send anybody back. right? So they're granted asylum in Greece. It is illegal to gain asylum or a claim for asylum in a second country. Once you've got your asylum, that's you. You're granted. So the ones that I want to go to a place called Lampedusa, which is an Italian island just off the coast of North Africa, and you go to Sicily, and then you jump in a wee puddle jumper plane for half an hour to go to Lampedusa, and that's the place that's buzzing with them this year. So I want to go there this summer and just
I know
claim
someone
stuff.
that lives in Sicily.
Well, tell them to put me up for a night when I'm going to Lampedusa. Are they mafia?
No, but you'll like them. They're cool. I'll tell them. I'll tell them to let you stay there. I'll tell them to get the boat ready.
Aye, maybe need to get two beds, because Alex was saying to me when I was telling him the stuff on Lesbos and stuff, he's like, you can't do these trips yourself, you're mental. And him being an ex-Marine, he's done a lot of close protection and stuff since he left the army. So he's like, no, you can't do these things yourself. So maybe take him to Lampedusa with me. There was good day things. I'm just blathering away here all night now. Let's see if I've got any more. There we go. What was here?
That's the good and the bad things about the lives, Craig, is once you're live, it can be hard to go away, right? Like if you're at your granny's house and she's like, do you want another biscuit? Just one more cup of tea?
That's
You
what I
know,
like.
and then
There's
that's
another
it.
question. There's more comments. See, the real time
Yeah.
is 9:43, and I'm scrolling through the comments. I'm only at 9:25, so I might have 300 questions. See, once Restore gets bigger and you get a seat, would you, or could you join in Restore? Because that would be amazing if you could be the Scottish Rupert Lowe. Well, I kind of want to be the Scottish Rupert Lowe. Anyway, and I think what he does is amazing. And Rupert Lowe is far more intelligent than me and far more experienced, but he's pulling off what he's doing in a room full of 650 people. Well, Holyrood's only got 130, so it makes it easier. So I don't need to be as clever as him or as experienced as him to be able to get the same sort of effect. And yeah, I could join anybody when I'm in Holyrood, but I don't know if I need to or I want to. I mean, but I do like Restore. I really like Restore, and I really like Rupert Lowe. And if I could pick the next government of Great Britain, I would say it was them. And I just hope that they don't do what happens. We get a new party, they look as if they're going to be brilliant, and then just daft things happen. Reform are a very good example of that. But I do know people that are in about that party, and I've never spoke to Rupert Lowe. I spoke to Ben Habib a few times and for long periods of time. And before they kind of fell out, he was telling me how wonderful a guy he is and stuff like that. So I kind of got to take his word for that. And who knows? I don't know. What I will say is I'm getting a hell of a lot of Restore supporters voting for me because they've not got any of their own, and they see me as quite similar to what they expect for us foreign people. So who knows? Yes, is it possible? The answer is aye, it is possible. Is it going to happen? I don't know. Certainly, if I get in there and I do well for 2 years, and I do get comments like you're like Scotland's Rupert Lowe, then there'll be loads of parties that want me to join them because they're all quite selfish. But there's not a lot of parties I would join. Rupert Lowe's Restore is probably the only party that I would join if I wanted to do that. But things can change. They might get a bit shit and somebody else might get a bit better. I don't know. But I could do it. I don't know if I will do it. They would need to be happy with me because it's a big responsibility for a party to go, well, he's now an MSP representing us. So, a lot of things would need to happen before it happened. But it's probably, I'm not trying to be fancy. I'm always trying to be straight with people. And I don't want to dodge questions. It's not something I've spoke about. But out of all the parties out there that I could join and represent, they're probably the only one that I would, to be perfectly honest with you. But again, times change. So I hope that's answered your question, Claire. But what I'm very appreciative of is the Restore branches up here are all like vote Craig, right? And also Advanced Party. They've got 8 candidates up here. None of them are standing in Glasgow. That's Ben Habib's party. They've said they've recommended me. They're saying to people, if you're an advanced member, you're in Glasgow, vote for Craig. And the Restore branches seem to be doing that as well, saying, you know, Craig's who we would pick. And I'm really appreciative of that, because that could get me thousands of votes before we start. But I don't know. I know people are in the store and they're doing work for the store and all these things. So you see that. Let's see. Cumbernauld is not, unfortunately, under Glasgow, buddy, because I've got a lot of people up there that would support me. Where are we? Proverbs. You'll get my vote, Craig. I wasn't sure I'd get to, but you just said I would. Great. But you're a Celtic fan, Proverbs. You're right. A lot of people, will you be allowed to? Where are we? Somebody's made a comment there, right, about Rwanda. It's no work. It's working now, and I think Rwanda should have worked, but I understand why people objected about being a third party. But there's other countries using it now, so we kind of probably should just have been more stubborn. But the one I like, and it's an SDP policy that when I was in them, but it's actually been adopted by Restore, and that is use Ascension Islands, which is in the middle of the Atlantic. We own it, so you've not got that issue where people can start talking shite, saying, "Oh, it's a third party country" and all that nonsense. And basically what SDP policy was, come here illegally, we put you in a plane, you get sent to Ascension Islands, and we're going to come out the ECHR, so we've got no need to take any asylum seekers. We'll find out who you are, and then we'll make a decision, which will probably be no. And then we'll just, once we find out who you are in your country of origin, we'll drop you back off, right? So you wouldn't need to do that for long. And all these asylum seekers will know, well, it's kind of no point going to Britain anymore. So you wouldn't need to do it often. And that would have been the same with Rwanda. Once we started doing a few of these flights, it would have put people off, but it wasn't to be. So the SDP policy was, that's reduce Ascension. Now, this is where it gets a bit weird, because the leader of SDP, I was a Scottish leader, but the guy who was the overall leader, William Clouston, he was part of Restore before they became a party, when they were a think tank, and they were getting all these policies together. So obviously that's how they ended up with the SDP, almost identical to the SDP policy on migration. And they've now accepted that. So that's quite bizarre. But I think that was a fantastic idea. It was one of the reasons I joined SDP. I really thought that was clever. And now Restore's got it, and I think it's a brilliant plan, and it's probably the best. Rwanda should have worked, but having Ascension just makes it a bit easier, because folk can't use that shite. That's exactly what I'm saying, Albie, create trade schools, get people, whatever it is, if people are really technically minded, get them into technical stuff. If it's people that are, entrepreneurial, we need to, our education system ain't working. It's not delivering the type of people we need. It's not delivering the skills that we need. So we need to start thinking out the box. She's just missed it there. So Hamilton's, you've got Blantyre and then Hamilton. Blantyre's in Glasgow, Hamilton for votes isn't. So she's needing to move house about a mile up the road, mate. Right, best questions. I'm getting shattered here because I've no ate, and I've been doing this nearly 2 hours. So, question. There we go. My pal Hoagie had a horrible experience in a pub bathroom and is now in extreme counselling. How could Candy recommend I support Hoagie as a friend, albeit a mobility challenged orc? Any tips there? That's brilliant. You're getting questions on that.
I mean, I don't even know how to answer that question, right? I don't think I'm qualified for quite that question yet.
Mm-hmm. I think even, I've had mental health issues in the past, and I've got a lot of pals who get mental health issues, and I would imagine some of the stuff that your pal's going to be, have got to be mental health stuff. So, just support them, be there, phone them. And I don't know if you agree with this, Candy, but I say to people a lot, when I've got lots of pals who've had similar experience to me, and I'll phone them up, I'll say, how are you? And they'll go, aye, fine. And I'll say, no, how are you really? And you always get a different answer. Because, and this is what I do, by the way, see if anybody says to me, some people, they use this my nickname, some people say to me, how are you? And I always say the exact same thing. I say, bang average. And if they're no listening, they don't even register it, because we're used to going like that. How are you? Aye, fine. Yourself? Aye, great. Right, that's it. That's how we hang with each other. So I do it deliberately. I go bang average. And they go, what? I know they're listening to me. If they just go, aye, I'm fine myself, what was the point in asking me the question? So what I do with my pals that I know I've had issues in the past, I'll say, how are you? And sometimes you go, well, I don't need to ask because I know they're all right. But if you get a sort of wishy-washy one, I just say, no, how are you really? And generally all that takes is that's that second one, because then they appreciate that it's not just the bollocks, how are you? Which is just like saying hello, really. And just be there for them. And I had a pal, the guy, a pal, it's somebody I made a video with a while ago. We got chatting while we were doing the video. And he had some mental health problems. And I tried to phone him the other day about something. And he phoned me back yesterday. He's like, I'm really sorry, Big, and I know you phoned me a couple of days ago, but I was going through a bit of a dark bit. I struggled to even get out of my bed. I was like, where are you now? He's like, I'm in the motor. I went, brilliant. He's like, what do you mean? I went, that's a tough thing to do when you're in that horrible space. Well done. And he was tickled pink. He was like, thanks very much. I went, do you feel a bit better about yourself now? He's like, I didn't know that you've put it that way. I was like, well done. Because for 2 days you couldn't do that. And just help them. Be there for them, mate. That's what I would say. And that's no me. I'm not as clever as Candy on the subject, but I've lived it. I've lived it, and I've survived it. Thankfully.
I fully agree with what you said there, Craig. Like, just sitting beside your friend and letting them be sad beside you sometimes is all it takes, right? And not telling them, like, pull your socks up, conquer the world. Sometimes you just have to sit beside someone and say, that's a tough thing that you have to deal with right now. Or sometimes telling people we don't have the right answer, right?
Aye.
But yeah, just talking to people and telling them, like, some people, it's good that they got up and had a shower. Like, yeah.
Aye, that's right. It's something that's a big thing. They didn't do it for the last 2 days. Carol's asking, can you do anything about reducing MSP numbers? We've got 650, I think that's MPs for 80 million people in the UK, but Scotland's got 130 for 6 million. Aye, so with that logic, we only really need about 60. Probably not, I need to be honest with you. And this is a thing you'll get with me, Carol. See, when I say I can't help with people, they've got to understand it's not because I don't want to. It's because I genuinely think I can't help. But I always explain why. And you can't then go, oh, that Craig's an arse because you couldn't fix that problem. I'm one guy, right? And the reason I can't say, and listen, what a politician would do at this point is go, oh, I'll take that up with when I get in. Just you make sure you vote for me, and I'll try my best to change that, right? To try your best to change that, what you would need to do is get it through Parliament. So you would need to convince 130 people to vote to make some of them redundant. I can't see that getting through. However, I think it's a good idea, but it's trying to get the people that would need to pass that legislation to make it a good idea. And I'm not that clever that I could think of a way of selling that to them that they would go, aye, that's a really good idea. I mean, you understand that SNP are probably going to have more MSPs than anybody else in there after this election. Hopefully they don't have a majority. But you would need to get them to agree with it. And I don't think there's much chance, pal. But it's a great idea. It makes sense. I think 650 is too much in Westminster, to be honest with you. Another thing is, with 130, we can't get 130 good MSPs. What's the point of having half that are rotten? Do you know what I mean? But then if you go, well, we'll just have 65, there's no guarantee that it's going to be the rotten ones that don't get the seats. So it's a bit iffy, innit? I don't think we need, and I know that sounds stupid because I'll benefit from it if I get in one of these 7 seats. We probably don't need 7 seats per region. So, that might be, you could maybe knock a few off there, maybe, I don't know. But I'll consider it, but I don't think it's something that you could sell to Parliament. And that's just the way it works. Just because I think it's a good idea doesn't mean it gets passed. We've got to get 65 other people to make, to agree with you. Right. Look for cues. There we go. I joined Advance the first time I've ever joined a political party, but I think Restore have a better chance. Do you think they'll merge? No, I did think they would merge, Claire, but what's happened, when Rupert Lowe came out and says, right, we've got a party and I'd like all these other parties to come in and we'll just be one party, Ben Habib made it quite clear that that wasn't happening. So the honest answer is no, I don't think they'll merge. I thought they would have, but it's not to be, unfortunately, because I would just like one decent party, right? Because then everybody has to vote for them, and it means they're no splitting votes. Right, where's the queues? Oh, Matthew, thanks very much. I'm not sure why the Scotland Act. I tell you, that's a great question, Matt, because there's other things that have come up in my mind recently. I think we need to leave the ACHR to help with the illegal migration problem. It's kind of if you don't get out of that, you can't. You get lawyers filling courts with shite, right? But there are things that we kind of need. So we need to have laws in place that protect the British people for the things British people want. And so I was talking to somebody just the other day about this, and it's bonkers, right? See, having the right to go for a procession, right, which could be the Gala Day procession, right? It could be the indie supporters wanting a freedom march. It could be, I don't know, it could be the Boys Brigade wanting to do a church parade, right? There's things in the ECHR that give you that right. So if we just bin the ECHR, you might not be able to have your fete next summer, right? So it's mad. So I was like, do you know what, probably worth doing? Getting legislation in place now so that if ECHR does get pulled, because there's loads of parties are saying if they get to be Parliament, get to be the government in 3 years, they would bin ECHR. So I think what we kind of need to do is we need to go, do you know what, there's probably a strong possibility that would happen. So why don't we sort out the legislation now so when it does happen, the things that we feel important to our lives, and there'll be other things, right? Then we've already got that protection. So once we get the ECHR and put it in the bin, the only thing that's really folk are losing is the asylum seekers. So I kind of think that makes sense, but I don't know. I'm struggling to get. I'm not an expert in the Scotland Act, mate, but I don't know what specific things we would lose out for that. And thanks very much for the donation. Any of these donations that I get through memberships and stuff for YouTube, that goes in and buys me equipment. And what I'm looking at right now is actually a teleprinter. And it's not because I read scripts, but when I'm talking and doing my normal videos, I'll put notes up here. And right now I'm looking at the screen that you're seeing, so I'm actually looking at that, because normally I would be like that on the videos. So that's what I use that money for. So thanks very, very much for that, Matthew. Other question. Have you watched Dino Bain Fallen Money video? Very eye-opening. I don't know, mate. I don't know. I don't reckon. I might have, mate. I watch a hell of a lot of stuff on YouTube, but stick a link in for me if you can. Can you get any advice for someone who has recently gone through trauma therapy, EMDR, I don't even know what that means, and is struggling to adjust to the world as it is today?
Do the things you love doing, right? That's what everybody has to do. You just have to do the things you want to do. And yeah, when it comes to technology and stuff, like, I'd ask a stranger, right? See if you're a person and you don't know how to order a McDonald's, turn around and say, "Someone help me," and you'd be surprised at how quickly someone will actually help you through it. But yeah, honestly, like, sit in a field, feed some pigeons. Like, that's my advice to everyone right now. Is just do the things you love doing.
You enjoy doing. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So what is EMDR?
I'm not sure what that means.
Okay. Some sort of trauma stuff. That's a great bit of advice. Even if you're not struggling, you just do things you like. I used to think we had a problem, but now I trust you to deliver the final solution. Can you tell us about your plans for the final solution? No, that's a cheeky question. That anybody that understands what the final solution is knows exactly what that is, right? But as far as the country's concerned and sorting Britain out, and this isn't something I can do in Holyrood, right? I think we've got too many people here. We've got too many people who shouldn't be here. We've got too many people who arrive in every day that shouldn't be allowed in here. And that will take a lot of stress off a lot of stuff. And if that means we have to deport 1 million people or 10 million, I don't know, I don't care, right? Then you've got this argument that seems to split people that are right of centre. And I kind of go, it doesn't matter who wins this argument because the country's better. And it kind of boils down to how many grandparents you need to have to be classed as British, right? Some people think that answer's 1. Some think it's 4, right? I'm like, I'm not going to get hit up in that figure because it doesn't matter who wins the election that gets to make all these decisions. Whatever decision they make on that one thing is going to make us better than we are today. And I kind of can't lose, right? And I think we all need to get sort of over the hang-ups people have got with that, identifying, and people seem to be arguing, especially when Restore came about, and you had Folk Reform, Folk Restore, Folk Advanced, all arguing about what makes you British, right? And I think we've got to accept it doesn't matter what answer we come up with that, right? Whoever wins that argument, it will make Britain better, regardless of who wins that argument, as long as they're not the lefties. Somebody in the right's got to make that decision, whether that's Reform, Restore, Advanced, or Tories, right? Whatever their definition is, there's no point us off on out of it, because whoever wins that argument, we all get the benefit because Britain becomes better. So I think that's what you were kind of referring to there. I hope I've answered as best as I can. Candy, where's your accent from?
Scotland. I get more Glaswegian if I'm in a bad mood. That's when you hear the Glaswegian in me be like, who the are you talking to?
Brilliant.
But yeah, just Scotland.
Well, I've kind of caught up with the chat, which is good because we've been at it 2 hours. Right, so I'm going to bugger off now because I'm starving and I'm tired and my back's getting sore because I've sat in this chair for too long without moving. Listen, Candy, thanks very much for coming up and keeping me company. You were far better company than Kev, so don't change. All right.
You either. We'll be watching, Craig. But yeah, take care of yourself.
Imagine that. Imagine that's right. 2 years
whole
from
city on your shoulders.
I walked by Jenny at a protest, and I'm not even going to protest. I'm going to the art gallery or something. Jenny's like, "Oh, you? Who's that?" Right? Yes, can I help you? Right? Don't want to kill me, rip me apart. But listen, I'm cool with it.
Well, I'll be right there beside Jenny, right?
Aye, batter me. But who stay out, right? Who stay out? Sack Houston banners. Yeah. That's fine.
We'll be dragging you into governing that.
Aye. Mark Fraser's just joined in and went, "Oh, what? I missed it. Oh, it's all right, Mark. Jump onto YouTube. You can watch it off at the start, okay?" So listen, guys, I'm going to bugger off because that's after 10 and I'm done in, back there, starving, and I've missed about 10 phone calls, so I need to catch up with some stuff. So thanks very much.
Take
everybody,
care.
especially you, Candy. Thanks for all the questions and have a great day. Cheery, bye now.